in La Brea on October 23rd. The platform in its final construction phase is set to sail for the southeast coast soon. A joint venture between BPTT and EOG Resources, the platform will begin drilling in 2025 with first gas expected that year. Young was joined by executives from EOG, BPTT, and Tofco during the tour. A popular clothing store at Price Plaza was robbed on Tuesday by two male suspects disguised in school uniforms. According to reports, the robbers assaulted two clerks, tied them up, and stole over $80,000 in cash, jewelry, and personal items. The suspects fled the scene after the attack. An unidentified man was shot and killed early this morning on Thomas Avenue Enterprise. The incident occurred around 12:20 a.m., with residents reporting hearing gunshots before discovering the victim. Police found several spent shells at the scene. The man of African descent, slim build and wearing a yellow jersey and black three-quarter jeans, has not yet been identified. Authorities are urging anyone with information to contact Chaguanas Police or the Homicide Bureau. Former Housing Minister Dr. Rudal Munilal criticized statements issued by the Attorney General and EMBD after the Privy Council rejected an appeal from the contractors in a multi-million-dollar cartel case. Munilal, who was not a party to the appeal, called the release a desperate act of political persecution. He clarified that he has not avoided filing his defense, which is due by November 15th, and emphasized that the case is a civil matter, not criminal. Munilal accused the government of using the lawsuit as a political tool. The case involves allegations of corruption in contracts awarded before the 2015 election. Well, that's your news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport,
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar
Why? You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No.
Let's go to the last part.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process that we've already failed, or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next to Insta. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this,
Screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be
those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim, or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
WESN.
Hello there and welcome to the program. I'm Keaton Shah. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We apologize for the delayed start. Unfortunately, the severe weather that we are currently experiencing, of course, we are under a yellow level weather alert. Usually that does not that does not necessarily insist anything bad, according to the TT Met Office. It essentially suggests that we should observe conditions. It's been very easy to observe conditions because the weather, at least where I am, has been incredible. incredible. The rain has been quite intense, and I can't recall actually experiencing quite this heavy rain for at least a couple of months now. Again, at least where I am. So we apologize, but thank you very much for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot happening in respect to Trinidad and Tobago, and a lot that does not necessarily equate to good. Let us start in respect to the traffic situation. And this is a point that was highlighted earlier this week on social media, a post that went viral, and then our colleagues in the media were able to actually put forward a story on it. And it's in relation to what is taking place in central Trinidad, constant choke points. Now, one could appreciate the efforts in respect to the highway development, highway extension that is currently taking place. But Chaguanas has always been a bit of a choke point. There's no doubt in respect to that. In the last few years, they've also seen quite a lot of development with a lot of malls, a lot of shopping centers, retail outlets opening up just on that strip where the Diwali Nagar and the Ministry of Agriculture is located. And it's good to see development. I've been curious though as to whether or not these malls or facilities would be able to actually get the accommodation of which it was built for, and thus far that seems to be good. So it is a positive sign in that sense, and it's bringing a lot of commerce to Chaguanas. But coupled with the Diwali Nagar that opened a couple of days ago, and also in respect to that traffic that is taking place because of the highway extension, of course, we hope for that to be relieved when it is completed. There's also the circus, which seems to also be getting like every Indian expo, where they always have this final extension, and you're never really too sure when it's actually going to end. Well, that's actually taking place near to the Medford gas station. So all of that has just created a bit of stress when it comes to traffic. And in TNT, I say a bit of stress because I don't know if anyone has actually grown accustomed to it or has found a constructive way to deal with that frustration associated with traffic, associated with time loss, associated with your leg going numb while sitting in the car. That has happened a couple of times. But the thing is that this is something that happens every year, whether it be the Diwali Nagar opening alone and the patrons that are there, not a lot of parking, causes a lot of traffic. Every year we know that this is going to happen. Every year this is something that's recurring. But you're adding to it with this highway extension, which is good. I'm not speaking out against the highway extension. Plus, this circus now that is taking place in Chaguanas. And you wonder, where is actually the planning? Where's the traffic planning, if anything? You see, the cost of development, I've said it before, the cost of development should not be productivity. So whilst I understand that sacrifices have to be made in pushing forward with development and moving forward with development, there needs to be plans in place. And it is something of which should be easier than years gone by because of the lessons that we should have learned or we could have learned. So it's something to consider. Now, I personally have not traveled to Chaguanas within the last week to experience the traffic myself. I'm simply going based off of experience and knowledge, and also based on what individuals, what colleagues and friends have spoken to me about. It seemed as though on Tuesday traffic was quite light as compared to other days. Again, that's the impression I got based on what I was told. But unfortunately, it does not last very long. That was just one day. So again, traffic planning, traffic management across Trinidad and Tobago is something that should not be alien to us. At this particular point, there's so many lessons that can be learned from all our previous experiences. This is not the first time the Diwali Nagar has opened up, of course. But let's see what happens. Thus far, no serious complaints as such, nothing to report on in respect to intense traffic congestion. At least that's not what I'm seeing coming from my colleagues in the media. So we'll await to see how things span out over the course of the upcoming week. Now, putting all our traffic restrictions and traffic ethics aside, let's take a look at what's happening in our political sphere. We have spoken extensively about internally what is happening in the People's National Movement. There's very little that we can comment on because at this point, it's speculation. The majority of it is simply speculation. Now, one former PNM vice chairman was due to join us on the program this morning. Unfortunately, we have not been able to go through with that planned conversation. But essentially, Robert LeHunt has indicated that he's hoped for a democratic solution to any internal issues that exist. Camille Robinson-Regis, who's the lady vice chair of the People's National Movement, she actually indicated that everything that has been said publicly about cracks within the People's National Movement has been exaggerated. She's even indicated that what has taken place with postponing the National Convention and internal elections was a strategic move on the part of the executive of the PNM. And this is something that was also stated by the current chairman of the People's National Movement, Stuart Young. Interesting, he said that he will never reveal PNM strategies. I don't expect him to do so, although some people might be able to guess for themselves from a historical context. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to put it together logically, at least, as to how delaying this is a strategic move. People have said it's because there's an election coming up and you don't want to hold an internal election now. That is something that we should wait for after the election. And the thing is, I myself am wondering, even if it makes sense for an early election to be called on the part of the Prime Minister. I mean, if I was in his position, thinking strategically, the airport in Tobago has not opened up as yet. That's going to happen next year. The refinery has not been sold as yet. You've also indicated of plans to sell your 49% stake in Clico. These are major, major happenings. Why would I push forward with any elections, especially when I can't cut that ribbon to that airport in Tobago as yet? So I don't think we're going to see an election this year, possibly earlier than November of 2025, which is the absolute latest that the national election can be held. But I don't think that we will see an election this year. There was speculation because of the 2 weeks in December, because a school is closing earlier than expected. I still don't see it happening. But then again, I'm not the Prime Minister. I'm not the executive of the People's National Movement. I can't say for certain. We can only see, as I said, a lot of what is being told to us. Our deliberations and opinions that are being expressed are purely speculative at this particular point. Now, shifting across to the United National Congress, an interesting comment coming from a former UNC government minister and former political leader of the Independent Liberal Party, which I think is disbanded. I don't know, we'll see to that extent if it's still existing. I think that was disbanded. But Jack Warner has indicated that if he is given the green light by the political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissesto, he is willing to run again for the United National Congress in a national election, which means he is willing to go for electoral politics. Interestingly, the seat that Jack Warner held under the United National Congress was Shagorno's West, and that seat is currently held by Dinesh Rambali, interestingly, who is my guest to be joining us hopefully soon on the program. Now, Dinesh Rambali has spoken out and said, you know, if Jack Warner decides to campaign, we might have a bit of fun campaigning against each other. He has indicated he's not willing to give up his seat, or at least give into a fight just as yet. We'll wait to see. But adding to that, Vasan Bharat, who recently, saying a couple months ago, indicated that he is willing to work again with the United National Congress after appearing on a political platform for the Economic Forum. But he has now indicated that he's willing to run for electoral politics again. I did have an interview with him a couple months ago and asked him to what extent is his relationship with the United National Congress mended? To what extent is he willing to work? He couldn't say anything at that point. At least he didn't want to say. All he noted is that nothing has been discussed as yet. But he says he's willing to run again. And interestingly enough, it's coming from another individual who did not have the very best to say when it comes to the leadership of the United National Congress within the last few years. An individual who's also challenged for the leadership, and that is in Dr. Ford Khan, a member of parliament for Arangwas, who held that position from 1995 to 2007, and again from 2010 to 2015. Well, he's indicated, listen, if I'm given the green light, I'm willing to serve as well. So, interesting developments happening in the United National Congress. At least these are what former election members are saying. They're still members of the United National Congress, but are we going to see a big shift in that political party before general election is called? Well, the word on the ground is, yeah, it's already happening. But again, we await to see what happens and what comes from the party. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on the program. And when we return, let's get into that conversation about a political tug of war. We are facing a crime crisis in this country, no doubt about it. But is a political tug of war really holding us back from finding any solutions? We'll speak to an individual in Dinesh Rambali who is still hoping to contest the Shogunas West seat. We'll get into that conversation in a bit. Stay with us.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movie Town, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. If you were listening to the commentary earlier, I said that we are in a crime crisis, and it's something that you cannot deny, it's something that you cannot doubt. We are not doing anything healthy by turning a blind eye to the situation or trying to sprinkle sugar upon it. But how do we really solve this situation? What is the next step in any sense of solutions to try and help alleviate the situation, to try and help tackle crime head on? I mean, the Minister of National Security tell you that they are working hard, they are trying everything. Clearly that formula is not working, or the formulas that they have used are not working in their favor. So what is the next step? Well, one gentleman has actually put forward a very interesting opinion. At this point in time, is it even possible? Well, I'm joined by that individual in Shoguna's West MP, Dinesh Rambali. Good morning, Mr. Rambali. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Keaton. My pleasure to be on with you again. It is certainly, in not any circumstances we would want. Sometimes we like to have interviews which would be more positively filled, but this is one of those times where yet again we are discussing matters that it seems as though it is a recurring decimal, but it is worsening. And I certainly appreciate that your media entity, yourself and your listeners and your viewers are certainly on board with the program and with the discussion. So it's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Well, indeed, so thank you for joining us. And from all this negative, hopefully there can be some sense of positive in respect to at least suggestions to a solution. Hopefully that will work. Your suggestion is that the political tug-of-war has not done us any favors at all in respect to dealing with this crime situation. But could you just define more clearly for us what is meant by this political tug-of-war? What is taking place with this political tug-of-war you speak of?
Keaton, I'm in a unique position where I have to utilize the platforms that are available to me to get my message across. So whilst I would have, of course, put forward my opinion by way of a letter to the editor, the headline was not necessarily mine, right? That's editorial privilege. But I think the headline did do more justice than what I had put. I had basically said it was political paralysis. And so I think, the editor said political tug-of-war, which I think is apt. And I want to say that what I meant, and it is not the first time I'm saying this, since last year, meaning 2023 in the budget debate, what I essentially pointed to in my budget contribution was the effect of crime. I spoke about the primary wages, the secondary wages, the trauma that had been inflicted upon citizens having regard to the crime. I quoted, World Bank reports and several international statistics that also included our region. And I was saying, I closed off by telling the speaker, of course, speaking to the nation through the speaker, I said that the population is not going to forgive us if we don't work together and try to get this, sorted out. So I think that what it is that I have been saying that it is beyond our time. In fact, we have passed our time where politicians need to stop being the activist on the ground, and they need to start doing what people have elected us to do. And the role of the government, I am not saying that it is limited to one side. The role of the government is to serve all citizens. So I don't intend to say that, look, any political person or party, their role cannot be relegated to just, partnering with their most vocal supporters. Unfortunately, the environment we are in, Keaton, is one where our political landscape has drifted very, very far away from the principles of our Constitution. It has become a game of division. I want to make that abundantly clear, where our leaders, I don't distinguish one over the other, where our leaders are no longer focused on finding balanced solutions. And that is why we, the people, the country is suffering as a result of this. So why not unite rather than divide? Why not? Why is it that unfortunately we see, again, our leaders are too often more concerned with gaining headlines or showing up at functions and ingratiating themselves with people who are downtrodden at that point in time than with doing the hard work of governance. And this is the problem I have. And Keaton, this is why I started off by thanking you and your viewers and listeners, because this is a platform. I want to make it abundantly clear. As the Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, as an individual who's speaking along these lines, I am being attacked because I dare to voice my frustration with the current state of political discourse. But I want to make it abundantly clear again, I am not in a position where I am saying that I have the answers. I am saying rather than resort to rhetoric, political rhetoric, and what you call it, political propaganda coming from either side, whichever side you belong to, we need to now move into meaningful action. So let us move away from elected officials just simply showing up for photo ops and signing little pieces of paper and probably cutting a ribbon here and there. And let us get down to meaningful action. And that meaningful action means that we have to provide solutions. Our leaders have to be the managers of our country, our the respective areas. If you're a member of parliament like myself, don't walk around making TikTok videos and stuff just to get what we say, I think we call it a viral sound bite now. So you want to get a clip that the media, will use as a sound bite. Everybody's interested in using some kind of sensationalism or inflammatory language that is going to cause it to be a sound bite. It's going to go on TikTok. You get 100,000 views and you think, oh, that's the best way of representing your people. And I am saying that all of this is only serving, given the current atmosphere, to polarize our people. So we are at a major crossroads in our country. We have a conversation that we need to engage in, and polarization, as opposed to having proper discourse, polarization is dominating the conversation, creating a climate of, what would I say, creating a climate of distrust, creating a climate of division amongst the people. And I really think that the youths of the nation, Keaton, if not, the majority, I'm not singling out a category, but particularly I am clear about this when I say that the youths of the nation, they are tired of being told that they must just choose between one side or the other, stick to that. They want to see that what they are going out there as young professionals. Some of them are the upper end of tertiary education. They want to see practical solutions that will address their concerns. Listen, young people now want to go out to, well, it was always like this, but even now more so, they want to socialize in night spots. They want to be able to socialize in the Starbucks, late at night, whether it be Movie Town, whether it be C3, whether it be Twin City, whatever it is. And they want to know that they can do that, and they want to know that they can do it with friends, with family. And I am saying that we are not doing justice to that bunch of people. Hence my reason that I said political tug of war. And I am very, very clear about it. I am not putting, as they say in common parlance, putting water in my mouth. I am saying that we need the leaders to come together. It is not the first time. This is what we would call the umpteenth time. You can't imagine you have a political leader of one party being a prime minister and a political leader of the next party, the opposition, being a former prime minister. And you can't tell me that these two persons can't bridge the gap so that we could have a conversation going. And there have been numerous commentaries. It's not only limited to my voice on this. There have been numerous commentaries coming from editorials, from Chamber of Commerce, business chambers, and they are all concerned. Now, home invasions. Last night I had cause, having seen the news, I had cause to voice something. You don't want to put everything in a press release, but I had to voice something about the fact that I saw people going to the beach and they were robbed. And I said to myself that this may not be a serious crime in terms of a murder. And it may not be so sensationalized that people will understand, listen, those people are actually traumatized. And the amount of crimes, and even in this last budget debate, which we just came out of in the lower house, I made the point that the statistics are going up across the board. So whether it is home invasion, whether it is extortion, whether it is what category of serious crime, they are too rampant in our society. And coming to say that, year after year, well, we have seen a 0.15% reduction, and that does not help us in any way. And this is where I have concern. Yes.
I think that in that sense, statistics has not helped the situation because the statistics are not translating to more confidence in policing or national security measures, and it doesn't necessarily equate to citizens feeling safer in any sense. Not that I'm downplaying the efforts on the part of the TTPS, but statistics are not the only thing that helps in respect to solution. It's interesting that you spoke about a current prime minister and a current opposition leader who's a former prime minister. Foreign diplomacy is something that we practice, and yet it seems as though domestic diplomacy is something we still cannot achieve. You pointed out that you are oftentimes attacked, or for speaking about these issues. Do you think that solution-oriented conversations in Trinidad and Tobago, depending on who it comes from, can be met with an individual or individuals being chastised or sidelined? Do you think that constructive conversations are not necessarily something that is welcome, even in the sense that the Prime Minister and the opposition leader cannot meet to have discussions on the current state of TNT?
Well, Keaton, to answer that question, and I hope I do justice to it in answering it short, not in short shrift, but keeping it short. Whether we can have constructive conversation, the answer seems to be no. But that is why I'm saying that to me, I have analyzed it as best as I can as to the reason why we can't seem to have these constructive conversations and can't seem to get together. It is because the politics, it has infiltrated and is pervading every sphere of life, and it is polarizing us that we don't know when we could withdraw ourselves from the political, animal side of us and say, no, we will keep the politics outside the door. Let's go into this room and let's talk and see what we can come up with. I have always maintained what we need moving forward is we need to have short-term solutions. And I think that if parties can agree just the implementation of the immediate short-term initiatives, then what can happen is that will now lay a platform, Keaton, for having the conversations for what is medium term and long term. Because why I say that is because from the minute, let's say the government implements something, or let's say the government, the opposition suggests something, and the government says, look, I'm going to implement what you say, but it just falls a little short. And immediately the parties start attacking. You told me to do this, and when I did it, and they go back in a long history of who did what first and whatever else. But if there's an agreement and just on the immediate short-term measures to be implemented, that will now lay a platform that, look, there's no room for attacking each other if we fall a little short in combating the criminal elements with this specific initiative, because we agree, let's roll it out and let's pilot it as a project for 3 months, whatever it may be, and let us see how it works, and this will lay a platform moving forward. So the answer to your question is that no, this constructive discussion does not seem possible, but we have to do it. How else are we going to solve it? I don't know that you can bring in any foreign expert and just put them to work here and we are going to solve crime, because we need to do it ourselves. We need to get off our laurels and we need to get on the ground and we need to see what the people are saying. Listen, the reason why I am attacked, and I know why I am attacked, if I say something that is critical of the government, the PNM will attack me. That is fine. It is all part of the course. If I say something which is, some perceived to be as though I am not speaking in tandem or in sync with what my own party is saying, well, then they feel, well, I am somehow absolving the government from their responsibility. And the truth is, at no point in time have I ever indicated that the government is to be held, to a different standard where they are somehow absolved from their responsibilities. Good governance is about making tough decisions, finding that point, that meeting point, that balance that serves all the citizens. And I'm saying that it is time to set aside personal agendas. It is time to do what is in the best interest of the nation. Politicians have forgotten what this means. And instead of working towards a practical solution, they are more concerned with scoring points against the other. It just cannot fit the bill anymore. It cannot help our country. And the frustration is real, Keaton, right? And crime, imagine families are getting phone calls. It doesn't matter whether you're a business person or not, this thing is so dominant, it is so pervasive throughout our country. Imagine a family will get a phone call telling them that I know where you take the kids on an afternoon. I know since I have called and told you, and this is from people who are committing the extortion. I had to do an interview on this yesterday. Imagine people are being extorted for monies. And when they don't pay it by a particular time, they're getting phone calls to tell them that I know you have taken the kids to, the grandparents' home. And if you feel that is going to cut it, and this is the fear that is being instilled in people who are earning their decent living, and this is what they have to put up with. So when that happens and people are threatening, and in some cases, the threats have been made real, right? The criminal elements have made good on their threats, right? Unfortunately, and body parts are showing up. And then worse than that, you have instances of where you're hearing now that there's the possibility of police officers being involved in it. Where is this society going? It seems as though we have really broken apart, and we really need to get back on track. And I know time is short. I just want to make this last point. I think it is almost 10 to 7. But Keaton, if you permit me, I just want to say this because I had to say this to a specific media house yesterday. And to me, you had a situation of where the Prime Minister said, oh, you all will not support, meaning the opposition will not support legislation that we bring to combat crime. So, he touts and along with his other ministers and stuff, anti-gang legislation and what have you, bail amendment, people are getting bail too easily and they're just going out there and committing the crime, and you have this revolving door, situation or whereby the criminals are going in and coming out quickly and committing the crimes and whatever. Imagine that was defeated comprehensively in the Senate a couple years ago, right? Bail amendment legislation. And then earlier, just a few months ago, maybe it would have been June or July of this year, just before the parliament went on recess, and that bill would have been brought, and you have the opposition leader who gets up and says, well, no, we are supporting bail amendment. What changed in the formatting of the bill that was brought to the parliament? What changed in the language? What changed in the philosophy? What changed that you would take a position from going hell-bent against it and then saying outright, no, we will basically support it? And it was supported. And what I mean by that is not to bring down the politicians. It is to show that, look, there are times when we can concede certain things, and there are times we can battle and say, look, I don't necessarily agree, but we understand something is needed to move forward. And that is what happened. And do you know what the Prime Minister said in response to the leader of the opposition? Well, if I knew that this was the kind of agreement or support I was going to get, I don't have to worry. We have other legislation to bring. Well, what are you waiting on, Mr. Prime Minister? Bring it and let us see it as a suite of legislation, not piecemeal. And in fairness to the leader of the opposition, she is entitled to say and to criticize the bill because you want to pass good law for the country. But that is what is needed, and that is what is there. And the problem that I have, Keaton, and this is what I will conclude with, I told the media yesterday that I am not attacking the media, Keaton. I am saying that too often the media, right, indirectly pick sides. If you promote a division in a scenario which you should really provide a platform that people can educate themselves, and sensationalism seems to sell not only in Trinidad and Tobago, on the social media and otherwise and whatever else, but it does very little in our environment to promote, to ensure informed debate, and to encourage meaningful action from our public officials. So I think the media should really act as a neutral observer, as a watchdog. And I'm not saying that they are not doing it. I'm saying that they should really refocus their lens, challenge the politicians to provide clear, detailed explanations of what policy they're moving forward. That's their job. Educate the public. Hold them accountable.
That is the role of the fourth estate that you're speaking about, and what the fourth estate.
But Keaton, demand the real solutions. Don't just, I demand it of me too. I'm not putting myself out of the category. Say, but I hear you talking a lot. What would you suggest?
Well, I've asked many politicians, including on this platform before. Opinions have been shared, opinions have been expressed. But I'm more curious. You seem to be an intelligent individual, MP, and I'm wondering if you can help me to understand. You are speaking about trying to end this political paralysis. I like the headline political tug of war on the part of the editor. But you spoke about political paralysis. Help me to understand this. How do you expect that to happen when currently the political leaders of the two main parties, or the parties rather, that form government currently, are finding themselves in a position where they seem to be fractures within their own party? They can't even unite their own parties. That at least that's what is coming across like. How do you expect them to find a united way going forward together? Charity begins at home. They can't even do it within their own realms. How are they going to do it amongst their parliamentary colleagues on different sides?
Keaton, you have really raised something there, right? A perspective, which I think that in asking the question, you're already pointing to an answer, which is that how can you demand people to work together when within their own institutions they are fractured, divided, they're fighting? And there's a common term that sometimes is used, and I don't like to use it, but I will use it for people to understand. We do say the crab out of the barrel syndrome. Everybody's fighting to get to the top and smashing the ones below. I think that sometimes you need, when there's a struggle of the people, you need something that is of sufficient importance that will bind everybody together. I have seen that during the COVID pandemic, for myself, that there was one such situation, which, yes, we may say the Hindu community, that you were seeing the prohibition of open fire cremations for COVID deceased persons. And one may say that is the Hindus, but it was not limited to the Hindus. And now the lobbying did not only take place from the Hindu community. In fact, the Roman Catholics, the Presbyterians, the Ashja, the Muslims, they all came out to support that. Look, that is meeting a certain measure or a deep measure of hardship on the segment of the population. So I saw that it was a sufficient cause, a struggle, and it caused people automatically to come together. And eventually it was resolved by some means of legal and discussions, but eventually it didn't have to go the legal route. What it went down to was a consensus being hammered out, how we can implement the change in the COVID protocols to now facilitate the open fire. That's an example. What could be more important than flowing of innocent blood on the soil of our land that will stain us, cause us sin in generations to come, that if we don't get it right? This is sufficiently important, and the impetus is there that the people want us. There's too many headlines that already point to us that we need to unite to deal with it. The leaders don't need anything more. They only need to abandon their political egos. That's all. My colleagues, some of them, if not, I don't want to call names. It's not a matter of calling names. But some of them, just abandon your political egos, and the country, this is a sufficiently important issue. It is a real issue, and it could come knocking or banging down your doorstep to come, and you will be the unfortunate recipient of home invasion, death, being bludgeoned, and what will happen after that? Then you will become one of the statistics, unfortunately, and the country will be, worse off. We will not be heading in a direction of positivity. So I want to say that what will cause them to come together, just abandon the political scoring points for now, and let us work in the interests of the nation. I am prepared to do my part, Keaton, whatever little I can do, right, as Member of Parliament. And even if I cease to be Member of Parliament, whether tomorrow, next year, next 10 years, it doesn't matter to me. This is so sufficiently important and serious to the interests of our nation that I will continue to lobby in whatever portfolio I hold, or as an ordinary citizen, that I want the country to unite. And it may be, Keaton, that the people can come together. They can come together rather than drive themselves apart, following these policies of political points at the top. and the people can demand that change from our leaders, and that will force them and force their hand. So, Keaton, I want to thank you again. I know I have taken more than my
I
time.
actually just have one more question for you, Mr. Ramali, and that is in relation. You said you will continue lobbying and continue campaigning for what you believe to be right. If you can give clarification, do you expect to be campaigning in the role of an MP? Is there a sense of expectation that you will still be in this particular position in time to come?
Well, it is no secret that I have taken certain positions, made certain statements, and publicly questioned the ability of the UNC, the party to which I belong. I'm a lifetime member. The party to which I belong, the leadership's ability to win the next general election. And I didn't raise it. I didn't go on a personal attack of anybody. I raised it against certain issues that continue to linger. Why did the People's Partnership led by the UNC lose 2015? Why did we lose 2020? And we are heading into another election, and these questions have not been addressed meaningfully, that we can say that, okay, we are taking steps to treating. I want to make it clear that the PNM, I know people like to use the word political enemy and stuff. I really don't use that. I say political opponent. And there's a reason for that. If you want to seek to get into government, if you want people to support you and you get into government, you have to represent everybody. So they are not an enemy now, and then tomorrow they, you treat them differently. The point is this. I think that at the end of the day, the party, the UNC, has to show, and I have seen it in recent elections in England, where you saw that the Labour Party was able to come back now, and under the leadership of Keir Starmer, you see that they did it, and I was amazed that he hit the nail on the head and didn't shy away in his victory speech by saying that you have reinvested your confidence in us. We now have to get down to work and start delivering. And that is what it is. We need to get the population to reinvest their confidence in us so that we can win the elections, and when we win, we could start delivering. Unfortunately, the PNM as a political opponent, with the greatest respect to all of my colleagues who are on that other side of the political fence, they are incompetent. They seem to be inept in drastic ways when it comes to getting the critical tasks done. And I think that that is where, in my mind, that they have failed over the past few years. But saying that, and I genuinely believe it, but then not being able to beat them in an election is another story. We need to be able to govern the country. We need political governance. And to do that, the UNC must win. So I will do my part. And yes, I have offered myself. If the party under this leadership feel, well, Rambali is upstart, and Rambali is something else, and whatever else names they call me, which, it's all part of the turf apparently in the politics. Recently, I heard it being labeled bullying. I don't know if they will change that tune when it comes closer to campaigning time, and just revert to the names that they were name calling before. But the point is that whatever they choose to do, I was doing my work before becoming a member of parliament. If I cease to be a member of parliament, I will continue my work, Keaton.
Well, MP Ramali, I want to thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning. I will say it is very interesting that you described the PNM as being inept and even incompetent, and yet still the United National Congress can't beat them in an election. That says a lot, doesn't it? But MP Ramali, thank you very much for your time. All the very best to you. Well, maybe our next conversation might be a bit more positive. Who knows? But take care, sir. All the best.
Thank you, Keaton. And I just want to say, on ending positive note, that Diwali weekend, going into Diwali week, let me wish you, your technical team, your members of staff there, the entire station, and the viewing and listening audience, Trinidad and Tobago, Shubh Diwali, Happy Deepavali. I really wish everybody safety and security and enjoyment at this time.
Thank you very much, sir, and to you and to your family as well. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us take a break here on AM Prime. We will return shortly to continue this morning's discussions, focusing now on corporal punishment. The Trinidad and Tobago Insurance Authority wanting to end corporal punishment. Now, you might be thinking that's already gone. The school system doesn't happen in the school system. No, they're speaking about domestically within the household as well. So the question I'm asking is, hitting your child an acceptable form of instilling discipline? Well, let's get into that conversation afterwards. Stay with us.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Central Bank Governor optimistic on e-money future. Acting Prime Minister tours Mento platform ahead of Sailway. Robbery at Price Plaza. Suspects disguised in school uniforms. Man shot dead in Enterprise. Police seeks public help. And Munilal responds to AG and EMBD statements on Privy Council ruling. Now for the details. The Central Bank Governor Dr. Alvin Hilaire expressed optimism about Trinidad and Tobago's transition to electronic money following his attendance at the IMF's G24 meeting in Washington, D.C. He highlighted the ongoing push toward fast payment solutions in Trinidad and Tobago, adopting India's unified payments interface model for smartphone transactions. Dr. Hilaire acknowledged challenges for emerging markets like high inflation, currency depreciation, and climate change, but praised the IMF's role in supporting fintech advancements. He also emphasized the central bank's critical role in regulating new technologies and providing public education. Acting Prime Minister and Energy Minister Stuart Young toured the Mento platform at the Tofco Fabrication Yard in La Brea on October 23rd. The platform, in its final construction phase, is set to sail for the southeast coast soon. A joint venture between BPTT and EOG Resources, the platform will begin drilling in 2025 with first gas expected that year. Young was joined by executives from EOG, BPTT, and Tofco during the tour. A popular clothing store at Price Plaza was robbed on Tuesday by two male suspects disguised in school uniforms. According to reports, the robbers assaulted two clerks, tied them up, and stole over $80,000 in cash, jewelry, and personal items. The suspects fled the scene after the attack. An unidentified man was shot and killed early this morning on Thomas Avenue, Enterprise. The incident occurred around 12:20 a.m., with residents reporting hearing gunshots before discovering the victim. Police found several spent shells at the scene. The man, of African descent, slim build and wearing a yellow jersey and black three-quarter jeans, has not yet been identified. Authorities are urging anyone with information to contact Chaguanas Police or the Homicide Bureau. Former Housing Minister Dr. Rudal Munilal criticized statements issued by the Attorney General and EMBD after the Privy Council rejected an appeal from the contractors in a multi-million-dollar cartel case. Munilal, who was not a party to the appeal, called the release a desperate act of political persecution. He clarified that he has not avoided filing his defense, which is due by November 15th, and emphasized that the case is a civil matter, not criminal. Munilal accused the government of using the lawsuit as a political tool. The case involves allegations of corruption in contracts awarded before the 2015 election. Well, that's your news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for watching.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport,
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
Shaken. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us once more this morning, getting into our last topic of conversation. The Insurance Authority have indicated that through a media release, Sheldon Cyrus, a Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Authority, has urged parents and guardians to reconsider their approach to discipline, emphasizing the importance of reinforcing boundaries and expectations of behavior, but wanting to end corporal punishment. Now, in a video that circulated on social media recently, it showed a man physically assaulting a girl. Now, that was the initial description that we got. We found out later on that it was a man disciplining his young daughter for telling a lie. At least that is what came out from the police report. That being said, there were mixed responses on social media, with parents expressing, listen, I grew up, my parents shared licks. I turned out to be fine. There's nothing wrong with hitting your child to instill discipline. It's something that we know of. It's something that we think it's working. And then there were responses saying there is absolutely no right in doing that. The father should not do that. That is going to cause a sense of resentment. Anger will build up. Hate can build up. And this could lead to a detriment down the road. CNT is divided on this particular issue. So let's get it from a psychological perspective this morning. I'm joined by Ronald John. Good morning, sir, and welcome back to the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Keaton. Good morning.
Mr. John, quite simply, from your perspective, is it acceptable to hit a child as a form of instilling discipline?
I would say in general principle, the answer is definitely not. Okay. Now, I've tried to make the distinction many times that between discipline and punishment. Okay. And it's okay to punish, but it's not okay to abuse. And very often what we see, for example, what you saw on television the other day, in that social media clip, that was abuse. That had nothing to do with discipline, and even it had nothing to do with punishment. What it had to do with was a big person taking advantage of a younger person.
Okay, fair enough. So okay,
I think that the distinction must be made clearly that that discipline is a process. It's not an event. It's not something you do when something happens. Okay? It's a process that starts from birth. Okay? Where you teach your child to self-regulate, where you set boundaries, where you put limitations on the child. And it's not an event where usually a parent or the adult get vexed and they feel it's too much and they take it out on the child.
Okay, fair point. So in that regard, what is an acceptable, if you're defining punishment versus discipline, and you point out that what we saw was not any of those, it was more so abuse. What, in your opinion, are acceptable forms of instilling discipline versus punishment?
Okay, well, I must say it has to be child appropriate for one thing, and it must be that specific child appropriate, because not every form of punishment would be appropriate or would get the effect you want. So, for example, if in my old home, I'll give an example, okay? When I was growing up, licks didn't bother me. All right, that didn't make me change behavior, and I got a lot of it. Okay, I still ended up being a pretty good psychologist, and there is no way I would say that my father's beating me when I was a child made me a better person today, or did anything good for me. Okay, because I could see in other areas of my life, because of his abuse, where it has impacted my life in a negative way. So because somebody has grown up in a house where they become successful and their parents also beat them or punish them through licks when they were a child, that does not mean that that particular person is now a whole and healthy person. They could have different areas of their life which has been impacted by the beatings they got as a child.
Okay, fair point. But then there's this whole notion now. Who are you to tell me how to parent my child? Who are you to tell me how I should go about being a parent, or telling me I am not a good parent by doing this?
No, I don't say whether I'm making a judgment, because sometimes most parents don't know how to parent. and they do the best they could with the knowledge they do have. Okay. Both my parents were teachers, but my father was what people would call a disciplinarian. He believed in licks. But he did not know any better. My father got out of teaching when he realized that children in school are not taking licks anymore from any adult in the classroom. Okay? So there must be other ways. There must be other ways that, first of all, the teachers have to find more creative ways of instilling punishment to a child. And it starts from the minute they come in the classroom, because there are some students, for example, in some classrooms, they're absolutely saints. And in other classrooms, they're demons. All right? And that really has to do with how the teacher, the boundaries the teacher set at the start, the way the teacher deals with them, the devotion, the care the teacher shows towards them. That's all part of the disciplinary process. But teachers who feel that what they're going to do is they're the adult in the room and they have the whip and they could beat the child into submission, that doesn't work. Violence breeds violence. We know that. And all the studies have shown that violent adults, 9 out of 10, have come from violent homes.
So, okay, going back to, please excuse me, a point that you made previously in respect to punishment and discipline, there's no necessarily one size fits all. It's an approach that has to be adopted towards the child specifically.
Yes.
You went on to give examples of yourself growing up and the discipline you received. You still said it didn't necessarily work, but you turned out to be a good psychologist. Fair point.
I turned out to be a very good psychologist. But,
that's why we have you. But I'm curious to know, what could you give an example, more specifically, of an approach that you would consider as being appropriate or one that a parent could adopt? I know you said it's child specific, but is there any sort of examples of an approach that you can give?
Okay. So I certainly wouldn't say there's no example for my father. But I would say for my mother, okay, my mother would be one who, because of her genuine care, her genuine affection, her genuine acceptance, her genuine unconditional love, so to say, that I was using the term that my mother rescued me. That was the discipline. That's what created that part of me. So there's a part of me, which is the result of my father, that's very, very angry. That can be very, very angry, I should say. But it's totally as a result of, I would say, the abuse he inflicted as a child. Okay? Thank God my mother was in the house and she was able to balance that off with being a totally different person. Okay? But in some homes, they don't have that. Many homes, if the father is a disciplinarian, I would call him the beater. If the father is the beater, then the mother leaves that to him and he takes care of it.
So, okay, so this good cop, bad cop parenting style, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I don't think it's, no, because then that sounds not genuine. My mother was genuinely that type of person. She was a genuinely caring person, generally forgiving person, a genuinely an understanding person. My father wasn't. My father said, "It's you know, this way or the highway." Okay, there's only one man runs in this house. Okay, whereas I could talk back to my mother, you could say, I couldn't even talk to my father. All right, because to him, you shouldn't answer him back because he's the man. right? So there was a lot of that certainly. But people who know my father today and who are very all professionals, the one thing they remember about my father is, boy, your father used to beat a lot. Imagine you go into a school experience and the only thing you can remember about your teacher, you didn't say, boy, your teacher was so caring and your teacher was so this. Your father got a real beat boy. That's almost every single person I meet who have been through school. My father was their teacher. That's the memory they have of him. That's not a great memory.
So moving forward now with the conversation, Mr. John, in respect to parenting, as you said, there is no one way. Most of the people who are parents don't know how to parent. I mean, it's a conversation, it's a statement I've even made many a times before. But there is no guide, there is no guide. So again, in wanting in raising my child from the time they are born to the time that from even when they're under my roof, from the time that they leave the nest, as they say, I don't want to necessarily abuse them, but at the same time, I want to adopt a strict approach. I want discipline to be something that is a norm, but I don't want to instill a level of fear because I want to have that relationship with my child. In doing that, how can I go about finding a formula that encompasses all that I just said? How do I adopt a parenting style, or what parenting styles are there to adopt in trying to actually formulate what is best for my household and for my children?
Okay. Well, I said the first thing is really getting to know your child, all right? And knowing what's valuable to the child, because the only thing that impacts really is on what's valuable to the child, what's meaningful to the child. So that would be key. And then to ensure that your boundaries that you set, that you're consistent with it. Because what happens very often is that a parent, depending on how they feel one day, they're upset about something and they punish, but how they feel the next day, they're not upset about it and they don't punish. But the behavior must be consistent, so it has nothing to do with you. And very often that's where the whole punishment thing comes in. It has nothing to do with you. It's everything about the child. And therefore, every decision I make, a couple of conversations must have. I must tell the child why I'm doing it. If by some chance I was to spank the child, and using, the word I'm using, spank the child, I must also tell the child why I did it. Okay? And there must be no, as a result of me spanking the child, I'm not talking to the child for the rest of the day. Everything must be done in a holistic and a loving, and all coming from a loving place.
Could you just
and I hope that answers your question, because as I said, every child is different and it's a lot of work, because you have, in my family, there's 8 children. How do you treat 8 children differently? Well, unfortunately, you took on the job of being a parent. That's one of the things you have to learn. You have to read books, you have to talk to people, you have to learn your child and learn what works best for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Taking away a PlayStation 5 might be a big thing to one child, but it might mean nothing to another.
Well, I think we lost Mr. John there. We were having difficulties earlier with that connection. I think we lost
them.
Mr. John, we lost him.
Punishing them, beating them, in that type of thing, absolutely guaranteed.
All right, Mr. John, listen, we're having difficulties again with the connectivity. I think I'm going to end it there for now. I want to thank you for joining us on the program this morning. There's a lot more that we could get into, but unfortunately, I think with the difficulties, we should pause there for now. Thank you for your time.
And maybe the next time I can come on down, okay?
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Take care. Have a good day.
All the best.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. That was a rough one.
Gentlemen, thank you very much to Mr. Ronald John for joining us on the program. I do apologize for the connectivity issues there, but that happens. It is technology. It isn't necessarily something that we have the ability to control. But again, thank you very much to Mr. John for joining us on the program. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it signals the end of AM Prime. To you, the viewer, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope that you were able to take away something from this edition of the program. And of course, to my guest, thank you for their time and presence and for joining us on the program. To my team in WESN, in Ryan Gomez-Burke and Milewood, who are there every morning, thank you very much to them. And of course, Naomi McNish for producing the show. I'm Keaton Shaw. It has been a pleasure indeed. Wishing you all the very best. And remember, today is a good day to have a good day. Try and stay safe as best as possible. As I said, if you've taken extreme caution before, you're going to have to adopt that by 2 going forward. Look out for one another, and let's all do our part to try and make TNT sweet once more. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good one. Bye-bye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must